Are you a believer in good? Do you love it when the good guy wins in the end? Then the Charity Matters podcast is just the place for you, where modern day heroes overcome incredible obstacles to save the day and help and serve so many people. Welcome to season 5 of the Charity Matters podcast. I'm Heidi Johnson, nonprofit founder, lifelong helper, and your host. I've been interviewing the helpers for over a decade with my blog, and I'm so excited to finally be sharing these inspiring conversations on our podcast. Join me as we learn the challenges and stories of innovators, entrepreneurs, and modern-day heroes who set out to solve the problems of humanity. Have you ever walked by someone sleeping in a park and wondered about who they are or where they're from? Well, today's guest is no stranger to this. Today, we're talking to Deborah Koenigsberger, who is the founder of Hearts of Gold. And when you hear what one little interaction did to change her life and how many lives she's changed, I think you will never look at someone on the streets the same again. Join us for this incredible conversation. You are not going to want to miss it. We are so excited to have our guest today, Deborah Koenigsberger of Hearts of Gold. Welcome, Deborah. We're so happy you're here. Thank you for joining us.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
We are just thrilled, and I'm so happy. I love it. We're on different coast. I meet people all over the country telling these stories, and it's always so fun to bring our audience and everyone to New York to hear what's going on, to meet the great people that are making the world better. So we're really happy that you're here. So why don't we just start out with you telling us a little bit about what Hearts of Gold does?
Okay. So Hearts of Gold is a 28-year-old nonprofit organization that supports homeless mothers and their children in shelters. We do that by what we call adopting shelters that house this demographic. And we approach them with our portfolio of programs, and then we collaborate. So the shelters already exist. They're run by their city shelters, or whomever entity owns the shelters. We go in with what they used to call years ago frills, because when we started Hearts of Gold, it was really about making sure the moms and kids had something in their lives that would give them a good memory, and not just being in a shelter, a lot of them coming out of domestic violence. So we started with a Christmas event where we gifted kids and moms gifts. We did Easter. We did all of these big events that we celebrate in our own lives, but that the shelters, of course, don't have budget to celebrate. We started with monthly birthdays for the kids. We would do everything from Valentines Day to Mother's Day, any holiday that we celebrate as a country, we would do it with moms and the kids in the shelters. That was when we started. We have now morphed into a very much more structured organization with programs that have proven themselves to be, really transformational for the families. So we have programs for the moms and we have programs for the kids. But our goal is to basically help them get out of shelter life, transition into housing, permanent housing, and just have a chance to just have what we all have, or have a shot at what we all have, which is a normal life.
Right. A secure, stable home life environment.
Sustainability.
So I obviously did my homework, and I know a little bit of the backstory, but one of the reasons I love having these conversations is to just so many people. There's 1.6 million nonprofits in the world. There's millions of people. We all see problems around us all the time, but we don't always do something about it. And the reason I love to have conversations with people like you is because something happened in a moment that changed everything. Yeah. And every single person I've interviewed, and I've been doing these interviews for 11, 12 years, can say that it can tell the story, the exact moment. They know the exact moment that it was. So can you share with everyone what that moment was and what happened, what was happening in your life that led you to Hearts of Gold, and what you saw that said, wait a minute?
So my moment is actually a trifecta. Okay. So, and it's one thing that built on another thing, and then they were all in front of me, and I went, wow. So the most, I would say that if I had to call out one moment, and I was in an elevator, I would say it's a Stevie Wonder song, because it is a Stevie Wonder song, ultimately, that took me back there. So I am an addict, and I'm very vocal about it. I'm addicted to Stevie Wonder, and I take any way I get him. I will take him intravenously. I will use headphones, whatever you want.
I met him once in an elevator in Tacoma, Washington. I did when I was a little girl.
He's a pretty incredible human being.
He is.
Since I could write, I would sit and write, back in the day when we had vinyls and turntables.
Right. I remember those days.
And I would sit and I would write the words to the songs, and I would pick up the needle and put it back because I hadn't gotten those lyrics down, and I had to write them and scratched all my mother's albums and so on. But I don't, as a young girl already, in my early teens, I would hear these words, and it did something to me when I was even too young. I keep thinking, why did I recognize the enormity of this when I was 12 and 13 years old? But I did. I heard his words, and it was just such I think of Stevie Wonder as the ultimate messenger. He's a messenger. He's here to deliver a message to all of us. And I, if you just listen to one or two of his songs, you'll see it'll inspire you to do something good. So Stevie Wonder, 1995, I'm at Radio City Music Hall. I have slept outside with the scalpers all night to get tickets for every single night of the 7 nights he was playing. And I am in my third row seat, dead center, and I am listening. And this one song, Take the Time Out, amongst all the songs, the album is called Conversation Piece. This song that I'm going to talk to you about is very little known. I've never heard anybody say they know the song at all.
I do not know the song.
That's exactly right. It's called Conversation Piece. Peace Sign is the name of the album, and the song is Take the Time Out. Take the time out to love someone, reach your arms out and touch someone, be it king or some homeless one. We are one underneath the sun. And it goes on to just blow you away about, this whole, what I get from Stevie's song is that these people who are homeless on the streets, somebody gave birth to them one day and it was a joy. And somewhere along the line, life took a left turn, and it doesn't mean that it couldn't happen to any of us. It just means that it didn't happen to all of us.
Right.
But it did happen to those people.
Right.
And so if we are not a part of the solution, if we don't attempt to be a part of the solution, then we really are a part of the problem, and we're perpetuating. So I was like, okay, Stevie, I hear you. I'm going to go do something. I'm going to find work in my neighborhood to do. Now, I grew up in a family that did community service. I grew up knowing that community was important, that my mom would bring home everybody from church and feed them and whatever. So it wasn't weird for me to throw myself into something to give back, but I am in fashion. That's what I really do for a living. I have a women's clothing store, and I grew up in the fashion industry. I modeled, and I did all of it. And so I have a women's boutique, and my boutique is in Manhattan. I still have it 34 years later. And why it's important is I lived up the street from my store, 10 blocks away from where my store was. And I would walk to and from work every day. So I've got Stevie's song in the park on my way between work and home was a woman and her daughter. She was a young woman. She was 19 years old. She had a 3-year-old daughter. They were sleeping in a cardboard box in the park. And you have to understand this park, which is now a gorgeous Manhattan, destination park, Madison Square Park, was a crack den with heroin addicts and craziness. So when she was sleeping in that park, it was, it was run down and just trash. Right. So I would cross that park because, again, it was between my home and my work, and I'd walk through the park. But I also am the mom of 2 boys, and my boys were babies at the time, and that would be our park. So we'd go to that park, just a little kiddie section and swing, whatever. Right. It just didn't make sense to me that this girl, that I was, on my way either home to my dwelling with a roof and everything I needed, or to my business, again, with everything that I needed that was sustaining me, and that somebody was sleeping outside in the elements. Beside the fact that, just an aside, I am from Jamaica. I was born in Jamaica. I was raised here. I came here when I was almost 11 years old. But there is no, I cannot stress that enough, world in which I would not have a relative or somebody's couch that I could sleep on that I would end up on the hard concrete in the middle of a city. Right. So that was shocking. Right. So I approached her finally, had a conversation with her a few times, and she told me that she'd been molested in the shelter and she wasn't going back into shelter. She'd rather take her chances on the streets. This went on for just a couple of weeks, and then she was gone. I went one day and she was gone. I would bring her food, and she was just gone. She disappeared from physically she disappeared, but she motivates me every day. She powers me every day because I know that out there she is, in my prayers, she's fine. Her daughter's fine and grown up and they figured it out. But I know that, that's in my prayers and in my heart. And I know that because I see it every day, there are a lot of other women and kids out there that's not happening for.
Right.
So that was the second thing. The third part of the trifecta was when my oldest son, who is now 30, was a baby, we were on vacation and we met Bobby Brown. And this was just before Bobby became Bobby Brown, where she was like all over. And
Right.
she was a makeup artist.
Right.
And as we struck up this conversation, she was telling me that, she did this volunteer work at a shelter where she would apply makeup to the moms, teach them how to do makeup and give them product. And she was hoping, fingers crossed, that when she came back to New York, she was waiting for this deal to happen that she was going to get her line out there. Cut to 6 months later, she's Bobby Brown. I was like, what?
Yeah, she did. Boy, did she.
She did. So she invited me. So when we came back from that vacation, she came to visit me at my boutique and said, you know what, why don't you come with me to this shelter, which was literally, so this is how it is, right? So I live at 33rd Street. My store is at 23rd Street. The park is at 24th Street. And the shelter that Bobby's talking about is at 28th Street. So between my home and my work is everything that I need.
Right, right.
And so I go with her to the shelter and she was like, because I did styling and image consulting. And she's like, why don't you talk to the moms about just how to put themselves together?
Right.
And I will do my makeup thing. And so we did this workshop together. And then she would provide makeup artists and we would do further workshops. But in that workshop, the moms came with their kids. And I was like, what is this? And they're like, it's a homeless shelter. Didn't know what that was. And so I thought, wait, these moms live here with their children. Yeah. Get all the story. And so that happened. And then for Christmas, I basically was like, I approached the director of the shelter and I said, what do you guys do at Christmas time? It's fun. I'd love to come and whatever. And she was like, well, we are run by an organization that's not about, we're just here to keep them safe and under a roof.
Right.
So
we can't do Christmas.
Which is like Christmas presents. So they had something like a 99-cent budget that they kind of would run to the 99-cent store and just get something to give to the kids.
Right.
As a whatever. And I found that so shocking because my children would get 99 presents each because Christmas is Christmas. The reason why I would say it's Christmas.
Right. We're Americans. We buy as much as we can.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Wait a minute, but you have to wake up to the tree with 70,000 presents underneath.
That's right.
That you can't even open in one day, so you go another day to open. So I decided that Christmas would change everything. And I literally went out and shopped and bought all these gifts with profits from my store this year. My children needed nothing from us. Everything they were getting from their grandparents was way enough. So.
Right. And this was in 1994?
95.
1995. Okay.
So I did that. And the response was tremendous. The moms were so shocked. The director, first of all, when we pulled up with our van, and what I did was I got every child's name, age, and gender, and made a shopping bag full of things for that child. So there was toys, there was books, stuffed animal. And the director was like, what is all this? And I said, it's called Christmas. And so from there, I went to on to do Easter, which that's another great little story because at the time I was doing some work with Ivana Trump, and she was at that time on QVC with her costume jewelry line. Right. And so I decided for Easter, because I watched an interaction with a mom and a child go sour at Christmas, because the mom was like, well, that's great. Ain't nobody ever done anything with me. And I just found so, wow. And, it's interesting. We're used to what we're used to. So when it's Christmas time, we look at what we're giving to our children, not what we're giving to ourselves. And we don't care what we get. We get nothing.
Right.
It's about the kids.
It's about the kids.
So what it did for me was after I got over being super annoyed that she'd said that, I was like, well, what she's really saying is I don't know this because I didn't have this. Right. So I said, okay, self, you must change this. So for Easter, when the Easter bunny comes and gives the kids the Easter basket, the Easter bunny's going to have a gift for mom. Right. So I asked Ivana for a piece of jewelry. I asked Bobby for makeup, and we made this beautiful gift package for the moms. So every time the bunny called up the child, mom came up and got her thing. And then it was, and it was just beautiful exchange, and it completely.
But you weren't a nonprofit. You were just kind of doing.
No. It was just me. I became a nonprofit because when I approached that same program about, okay, I want to raise money and I want to give it to you to do these events, they said, well, that's okay, but we can't guarantee that money will do that, which I appreciated very much. They were like,
Right.
we have so many emergency things that happen here that we can't tell you that this was. So I said, okay, then I'm going to do it myself. So that's why I started Hearts of Gold, because I wanted to know that that money was going there.
And it was that in 1995 that you actually applied for your 501c3?
So we applied for our 501c3 in 95, I think, 95 or 96.
Wow.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that. So you're a young mom, you have a business, and you're taking on a whole other business. I mean, a whole other business. And I will tell you this, and I'm sure you realize this more than anyone, that when we start these organizations, we don't know what we're getting into. We have no idea.
Listen, unfortunately, my MO is to jump into a pool and then realize I don't know how to swim.
Yep.
But I have to figure out how to get to the other side.
Well, if you were in a pool with 1.6 million nonprofit founders, you'd be in exactly with the same situation, because that's how
like crabs in the pool trying to get to the other side.
That's how we all do it. We have no idea. We also have no idea the joy it will bring us and the ways in which we get paid and our lives are fulfilled either. But when we're starting, and typically, at least my experience and everyone that I've talked to, is when you're going on the right path or doing the right thing, doors keep opening, like Bobby Brown and all these people that keep walking into your path. They keep opening because you're going the right way, and it's kind of easier.
Yeah.
And so you think, I'm going to keep going this way. But then you hit a couple bumps, because nothing is ever smooth.
Oh,
so talk to me about the challenges in the early days of starting Hearts of Gold.
Well, that's why they say no good deed goes unpunished. That's what because, oh my God. Look, so challenges are, I realized pretty soon that I couldn't keep doing what I was doing because it costs money, and a lot of money, right?
Right.
So I was fortunate enough to be
and I think the biggest lesson that everyone learns, and the hardest, is we can't help and save everyone.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And that comes with that realization when you say, I can only do what I can do.
That's right.
And that's when you're innately a helper, which you obviously are. If you weren't a helper, you wouldn't have responded to that song the way that you did when you were 12 years old. If you aren't innately wired that way. But when a helper realizes that their help isn't boundless and endless, that is a hard moment.
It's particularly hard when you realize that the problem that you are trying to address and hoping to solve is not solvable.
Right.
It's not solvable. And you certainly are not going to be the one to fix it. But I believe in the starfish story. You know what? So although you couldn't save every starfish on the beach, the one you threw back today got saved. And that's what saves me. When I would fall down and kind of go, this is so frustrating. I can't believe I can't, I would just go, okay, and then I would look at one of my moms, I would get a phone call or a text from somebody and they would say, hey, Ms. Deb, this happened today. And it's just like joy. And I realized that, okay, but to that person, if this entity did not exist, this joy wouldn't exist, right? So I try to remember to equate it with joy, but it doesn't stop you from getting your butt beat and from black and blues where you're like, okay.
Well, and I say, what I always kind of say is, the bucket is heavy. We're carrying our young children, our own laundry, our businesses, our jobs, our lives. And then we're carrying the backs of these people that we feel that somehow we've put on our back. They're ours now. They're ours. They're part of our family in our mind. They are ours. They're on our back. And we are responsible for them just the way we are for our kids. And so there is no way we're going to let them down.
That's right.
But then there's a moment when the bucket is so heavy and you're like, I can't hold this anymore. And so what do you do? And that's when those texts come. That's when you get them.
That's when I literally said to my two best friends, okay, guys, you're in on this. Let's go. I'm dragging you with me. And you must help me to do this. So I have a best friend from high school. I have a best friend from college. And fortunately, you know what? They were in a position to help. And they said, what do you want from us now? Okay. I said, I want X, Y, and Z. And they said, all right, whatever. I'm very convincing when I need something, and especially not for me ever, but when I need something for someone else, I'm going to get it. But at that point, you're kind of figuring things out as you go, and you're also realizing the best thing that we can realize as these founders with our founders disease is that you got to get help. and you have to accept help and you have to bring in people. So you have to do something like start a board. I'm like, what does that even mean? Okay. So there are all these learning curves on top of learning curves. And then you have unfortunate experiences where people actually do things that just astound you with the sheer meanness or harmless. And you're like, but we're a nonprofit. How can you do that?
Isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing?
I tell you, and on those days, I literally have to go to church and remind myself that I believe in something greater than all of them and all of us.
Amen. I say, and this is going to be my book, A Front Row Seat to Humanity, because we have a privileged position to witness the most kindness, acts of generosity, compassion. We see the most beautiful things in people. Yeah. But shockingly, we also see really shocking things that you just think, wow.
And it also sometimes comes from those you're trying to help.
Right.
It's outside, people are trying to help themselves.
It's not right.
Yeah.
It's really, it's a lesson in humanity. It really, it's a lesson in humanity. So those challenges, you were starting a board, you're trying to raise funding. Fundraising,
trying to figure out how to make, because, there's no shortage of ideas. There's no shortage of, me staying up at night going, I want to do this. And I go, what's the price tag on that? Okay. And then I have to find somebody who's willing to, walk along
execute,
with us, right? Yeah, and just even give me the means to execute,
Right.
So we do. I think that for founders, in general, we're just get it done people, and so we do not think of it as not being possible, right? We just think, okay, I clearly have to go another way. It's not that it's not possible and we shut down. We just go, when the door slams shut, we look up and there are 50 windows open. And you have to climb up a couple of steps to get them, but they're there, they're open. And as you said, when you're walking the right way, when those windows fly open, you're like, wow, okay. And you make a left turn and you make a right turn and you go down the path. And it's there, And
it's there, right? And there's a book called "The Obstacle Is the Way," and I think about all the obstacles, not only that I went through, that you went through, that everyone I've talked to has gone through. And I interviewed someone the other day, and she founded Cure Epilepsy. They've raised $90 million. Her daughter had epilepsy. Yeah. She was just with a bunch of moms that she met in the doctor's office and said, "What do you think we should do here?" And 25 years later, she has, they've raised $90 million and they've changed the national funding of this disease. Yeah. But the obstacles, there were a lot of them. And none of these stories they're all the same. And I think they're so important that we have these. But talk to me about your impact, because I think it's so important. And I don't think that we look back often enough, and not that we should be patting ourselves on the back, because it by the way, it's a village. It's never one person, but when you look back and think, I saw a woman and a daughter in 1994, and here we are in 2023. And now talk to me about what Hearts of Gold has done.
So over 37,500 moms and kids helped, impacted, children who were the first one in their entire family line to go to college. My big thing is that education is the way. And I don't necessarily
100%
sitting in a classroom or formal education as we know it, but there's so many ways to educate people. And there's so many ways to educate people out of darkness. And darkness is ignorance. And ignorance is just something that, if we're fortunate enough to be raised in families or communities where we were privileged enough to be able to, go to school. Look, I'm an immigrant from an immigrant family. And the only thing that we know as immigrants is you got to work. That's the only reason why you're here. You're here to work.
Right.
Why are you here to work? Because working is going to provide something better and different for you. So I know that's
the American way.
Work. The American way. A country was built on this. We need to get back to it, people.
Amen. Amen. I'm with you. Let's work, people. I agree.
Let's get back to work. But
we got a country to take care of.
Yeah. But so when I see this and I think, okay, education, a mom, like we have a camp We've taken children from Brooklyn to Manhattan who have never been to Manhattan. They don't know that there's a High Line or anything else. They haven't been to a museum. They haven't been to whatever. We take them to Washington, D.C. We take them to Philadelphia, and we walk the historical mile. And we just do all these things, and you watch them just, I take them to the supermarket, and I say, I want you, everybody today, we're going to buy a fruit that you never ate before. And they pick up an apple.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, no. I'm sure that's your favorite fruit, but we're not buying that. And they were like, no, but I want to try it. And they earnestly telling you that they've not had this apple.
Wow.
And it's shocking. Just like you said, wow, what?
Right.
And then, but we go from there to lychees and to, and I say, okay. And I pick up everything, and then we sit in a circle, and everybody the rule is that every single person has to try it. And so we cut it up, and everybody walks around, and you see their face, and they're like, I'm not trying that, Miss Deb. And I'm like, yeah. And then you watch the transformation, which is, so the bigger lesson here, right? So it might be about a lychee, but it's actually not. Watch them go, oh, whoa, hey, you guys try this. It's really good. That thing, that Mikey commercial from a gazillion years ago, where let's get Mikey.
Oh, yeah. The Czech cereal. I remember that. We're the same age, I think, and we're close.
Isn't that so funny? But I watch them experience something new that's so simple and basic. And they
try it, Mikey. You'll like it. That's it. Try it, Mikey.
That's right. Try it. Hey, he likes it. Hey, Mikey. Hey, Checks. I want some money for my nonprofit. By the way, no, but it's just like watching somebody learn something, watching somebody be exposed. Like my parents, the rule was you go into school and you're going to get an education, come hell or high water, and you're going to be something.
Right.
And that was the mandate. And, so I had children, and I went, okay, I did this and you did this, and now you have to do that better. You have to go one step more than I was able to. Right. And I wanted the same things for the moms and their kids. I said, you know what? They look at me and they're like, yeah, Miss Deb, you don't know about it, because they look at me in my office and they're like, yeah. And I go, you don't know anything about it. Let me just tell you. I came here.
You didn't just snap your fingers. There was a lot of work that you've done.
Let me tell you about the days I worked in McDonald's and swept the parking lot all day long. You have no idea.
Right.
But when you are able to, if you are blessed enough, if you are given the gift of sharing yourself with somebody else in a way that will have impact and change something, you're blessed. And you have to share it. And you have to share it, right?
Amen.
So
and I think
to hold on to.
And I think these conversations are so important, because I think there are so many people who think, to your point, they look at you in your office, they look at anyone's life and just say, oh, how I just want that, or how did they do that? Mm-hmm. And no one just magically shows up. No one just, pulls a bewitched to go back to our 70s. No one just rubs her little nose one way and says, here I am. I'm going to be, I'm going to be this model. I'm going to have this boutique. I'm going to do all this. I'm going to start a nonprofit. There's so much that goes into it. And I think that when people, they shut down because they get afraid and they feel overwhelmed, they don't know how to start. And I think when I talk to nonprofit founders that are truly just entrepreneurs with a ginormous heart, that I want people to realize that it just takes that spark to get the fire going. Mm-hmm. And once the fire's going, you can just go with it, right? And that's what we are in a privileged position to be. We're kind of the fire starters of the world. Yeah. And once it's contagious, because once you spread the light, everybody wants it. Yeah. Everybody's like, I want what she's having.
That's when I met Stevie Wonder in 2001, he said something to me. Because I told him, of course, why I started Hearts of Gold and about the song. And he said, and he's such a, I mean, what a man. He said to me, my little song made you do all of that? And I said, your little song? Like, do you have any idea what impact on the world? And I just thought, it wasn't a little song, and it wasn't just words on paper. And it was such a invitation to open your heart and see something besides yourself. But again, I surprise myself. Like sometimes I'm like, wow, okay. Also, I will say this, as much as my family lit my fire and fueled the furnace to succeed, I also had members in my own family who told me I'd be nothing. So you're fighting this, like there's this another voice in your head. And the reason I fight triply hard for these moms is because I too was told I couldn't do it. I too was told,
Right.
Very recently, a current landlord of mine told me I couldn't do something else that I'm going to do. And it's just like, you look at people like that and you're like, now, why would you say it?
Right.
And who are you saying it to?
Yeah, because think about this. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think giving these kids, especially planting these seeds in their brain of who they can be. I run a youth leadership organization by day, is a nonprofit that I run by day. And we train thousands of kids, middle school, high school, and college kids on leadership. Mm-hmm. And the college kids teach the high school kids, and the high school kids teach the middle school kids. And you see, as soon as someone older and cooler tells a younger child that they can do this, or
oh my God,
it changes everything, right?
Yeah.
It changes everything. And they begin to believe, and they begin to rewrite their own story, and they begin to see themselves through the lens of somebody else, how somebody else sees them. And all of a sudden, everything shifts for them. And I think that that's exactly, what you're doing with these kids and these mothers. You're shifting both. It's not just one, it's both. And that is so
But I think
huge.
you shift the unit. Like, that's what I realized. My mom had this magnet on her refrigerator that said, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. And so in order to get, so you have to, they're a unit, right? Because you want each other to celebrate the other's success. You want the one to support the other one. I would have a mom call me and say, oh my God, I scored 90 on my test today. And oh my God, Miss Dad. And I would say, okay, so this one, I said, did you tell Ben yet? And she goes, no, I told you first. I said, well, okay, share it with Ben, because I need him to know that that's happening. And I always say, I think the message that I always try to give is, you know what? Everybody needs somebody to disappoint, not to make mad, but to disappoint. And if you have somebody that disappointment beats anger every day of the week and twice.
Oh, all day long.
Because if you have somebody who really believes,
it's the only weapon God gave us as parents.
Yeah, big time.
It
right?
really is the only thing we got.
Oh my God. And
because
when
you have to say those words, you have to say those words.
Disappoint. Oh my gosh.
You just see it.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. It's like crestfallen. So I learned that word, and I use it a lot with the moms, and I go, just don't disappoint, and don't disappoint your kids, which means put your best effort out there and watch what happens, right? Watch what happens.
So I can't only imagine since 1994 how your life has changed, your world has changed. But and you've shared some of them, but what other life lessons have you learned besides, about disappointment that you from this whole journey since you saw that woman? I mean, what life lessons have you learned?
I learned that a single human being can really affect major change. Like one person can, because it starts with an idea. And although, when this Christmas, we wrapped and distributed over 5,000 toys.
Wow. I thought I had a lot of wrapping this Christmas, but I think you won.
Well, oh my gosh.
You have a lot of elves. Santa has a lot of elves. Elves.
I needed elves to help me shop for the stuff. I needed elves to come and help me wrap. At 10 o'clock at night, when I was sitting there literally falling asleep on the wrapping table, because I still had to go an extra whatever. I needed people who would call and say that, hey, still I want gifts to wrap. Let me come help you. So I think we should understand that what we're doing is bigger than all of us, and pull in your communities, like your community. There are people in your community who are, I think I'm a vessel, basically. I think of myself as a vessel. And I think that I am just there because I have that kind of energy. But I need people to, if I'm the ammunition, I need bullets in my ammunition. I can't do anything with that, right? So I have an empty thing, I'm standing there, I can't go anywhere. But, if you load me up, I'm like the Energizer Bunny, right? But I need the battery. So where are the batteries? And be the battery for someone, or, because we don't all have the same energy. We don't have all the same, way of thinking about things. But some people have, that's why those T's are so important in nonprofit, right? Some people have time that they can give you. And that time is magical. Some people have the talent to help you create something. And that's magical. And some people have treasure, and that treasure is immeasurable, right? So now you have time, talent, and treasure, and everybody has a different one of those that they can bring to your aid.
Right.
So one of the lessons that I think is really important that I've learned is that there are so many kind people out there in the world, and they're just looking for that thing to believe in, to latch on to support.
They don't know where to start. They don't know where to start.
And they're not us. So they're not going to find something. But the
Right.
minute you say, hey, because, it is what it is, right? They say that people have more followers than they are leaders. But we need followers. We all need followers. We can't all be leaders. We'll be stepping all over everybody and nobody gets anything done.
Well, we do, and we need, we can't all be chiefs. We need a lot of worker bees, we need worker bees that are coming into the hive that are helping us. And I think that it's so true. And I also think that what, you're saying about everybody has a gift and everybody has something to give. And no matter who you are listening, no matter what you do, you have something somewhere, some way to help someone. It can be tiny, it doesn't have to be huge. You don't have to start a nonprofit, although it's pretty fantastic. But with 1.6 million, you don't necessarily need another one. We need people to help the ones that we have is what we need.
During COVID, I would hear the message that was being, repeated over and over and over again. And I was so upset and crazed about it because they kept talking about, essential workers, essential people. And that word just bugged the hell out of me because I was like, don't tell people they're not essential to this problem because we're all essential to
We're all essential.
If you have a neighbor that's an elderly person, knock on their door and see if they need something. If you're going down to buy water today, you can be essential in one way to someone. But instead of making us all, we felt like they were these essential workers and then there was the rest of the world. And you can just go sit down and wait for this to pass. And I just think that you need to empower people and not, tell them that they can't really do anything to help.
That is a brilliant point. And I actually 100%, 100,000% agree with that. It's a brilliant point because it is. And I do think that the other thing that happened, during COVID, and not to go off on a COVID tangent, but, what we do as nonprofits and what we do as nonprofit founders is we create community. Yeah. We bring people together. And you saw a lot of the isolation and the breakdown of community, work community, family community, breaking down communities. And at the end of the day, we are people, were raised in tribes. We were meant to be together and we're meant to care for our tribe. Yeah. And whether that's your neighborhood, your church, your synagogue, your school, whatever your tribe is, your block, your apartment, whatever it is, you got to care for your tribe. Yeah. You got to care for your tribe. And that's what we have to get back to. Yeah. It's so important. It's just so important. And that's what makes everybody feel good, right?
That's right. At the end of the day, every single person feels good. Right. When we lift one, we lift all. That's the thing.
That's right. Amen. Yeah. So last question is, how have you changed? You've learned a lot. You've shared a lot, but how are you different than you were as that young mom in 1994 who just kind of wanted to help one person?
I've matured a lot in the process, a lot. I have found and met incredible people along the way who have taught me invaluable lessons. And I've learned invaluable lessons from people who weren't really trying to teach me anything, but I learned it anyway. Because I was not going to be dragged down. So I was like, okay, I'll take that. I'll take note of that. And
I always say I'm here for the education. I'm here for the education.
Hey, amen. I think for myself, I keep opening. Sometimes, something bad will happen. And I have a manager who runs my boutique and she'll see the craziness happen. She goes, I don't understand when they do this craziness, how you still get up the next day and go out there and help another mom. And so I've learned that all of us are flawed, right? And I remind myself of that just before I hit the steam button, that it's okay. Just think about that. Think about that for a second, that we're flawed. Some of us are just not able to accept something that's being given to us. And they just have to learn that about people. And that was the hardest thing for me to accept because I was like, no, I can fix this. I can fix you. And I would try 100,000 ways and, I'd get slapped down and fix it. And then what I've learned is that you can't save all the starfishes. You literally cannot, even if you have all the resources in the world, because it's just not possible. But what you can do is get a whole bunch of more people on that beach, and all together we can save the starfishes, So that's if I were to say tomorrow, what was it, sum up your life, I would just say, God, of the things I've learned, there's so many ways to love and to love people. And to teach.
You're going to make me cry, Deborah.
Listen, I have learned, let me tell you,
You're going to make me cry.
When my child, who is now a 21-year-old, and I've known him since he's 3, and he says to me, he calls me Titi, and he says, Titi, and this is a child who was in the shelter when I met him with his mom, and through that relationship formed friendships with 2 other boys, and they're still friends today in their 20s.
Oh.
And one of the boys has gone off the deep end, and the other one is kind of sort of, we keep trying to bring him back on the track, but this other one is this shining star, Ben. And Ben says to me, but Titi, you have the magic sauce. You just have to remember that. You have the magic sauce. So they just you need to do with them what you did to me. Just make them, so you got to talk to them, Titi. Don't give up on that. And that's, coming from someone that I literally, when I say I am a tough love girl, you need to toe the line or you bounce. So
I knew I liked you, Deborah. I knew there was a reason. You are my people. You are my people, Sister
Only X amount of hours in a day, and you will not waste mine.
That's right.
So the moms would come to me for discipline when they go, okay, go tell Miss Deb what you did in school today. And I would sit there and I would go, really? Great. And they never wanted to come to Miss Deb. But I did that to him so much. And he was like, and now he tells me, he goes, you made me who I am, Titi. Like, you taught me all the right things. You can teach it to them too. And that is broken the cycle for his whole family. He is now has a family and is going into the army and is making these incredible choices. And he's just like, and when someone says to you, one human, if in your book, if you're at the end of your story, you can write that one person's life was significantly impacted by your being walking the earth, leaving a footprint here, then for me, I am full. I am full. And I have that in so many moms and kids that just come back with their stories. And, you can't stop. It becomes your drug. The drug.
Deborah, I agree. And my husband's like, it would have been cheaper if you were maybe a shopaholic. Helping people because it can get a little pricey sometimes.
It gets pricey.
But it is a drug, and it is the best drug. It is a drug of love and kindness and joy and connection. And it is
and Stevie Wonder.
And Stevie Wonder, I guess. If we're going to recommend any drug on Charity Matters, it's going to be that you do something kind for someone. That's the drug that we recommend, is a little bit of kindness. So tell us how we can support you, donate, volunteer, get involved, all of those things.
Okay, so we are at heartsofgold.org. Please go on, check out what we do, read the stories. There's a lot of press there that'll talk about, people interview us all the time about the work we're doing. And so you can see legitimately what we're doing. You can volunteer time. Again, that time, it matters. We are absolutely about to launch a huge project, and we could definitely use volunteers from all spheres. We could use people that help with accounting or just inventory. We have a thrift store. The thrift store is called the Thrifty Hog. And the Thrifty Hog's purpose is to provide job training for the moms and their adult kids, and we pay them a living wage. That store, it's 100% donation-based. Wow. When I tell you, our motto is Gap to Gucci, and I am not kidding. And if you walk over there right now, you will find things from Old Navy, and you will find things from Louboutin, and you'll find Chanel, and you'll find Gucci. You'll find everything. And all the goods are donated, and we sell that and pay the moms a living wage and put any net proceeds are all about the program. So you can, wherever you are across this country, you can put a box together and UPS it to us and send us your stuff. You can donate, you can donate money. Of course, every nonprofit needs it. We are going into a situation where we are building out a space that we're going to be using for programs as well as a larger thrift shop situation. And so, talent, who has talent and wants to throw something in? Come on over. So find talent, treasure. All of those things matter to us. I have one girl who volunteers every Wednesday at the thrift store. She's like, I just want to work in the store on Wednesday. Put me where you need me. So, all of those things matter. And that is, those are many ways that you can help us. And we always have events coming up where we need people to just, help us. We have a gala every year, and we need volunteers. We have programs. We do wrap 1,000 million Christmas and we give away meals at Thanksgiving, and we do everything else in the year. So, and we have tutors that tutor our children in our learning program. We have a Hearts of Gold Learning Center that supports the kids after school with private tutoring. So we have, there's more than enough to get involved in. But But the most important thing I would like to share and ask for people to help the larger community is, in your community, there is someone that needs you. You are needed by somebody for something. And if you can't go outside of your community for whatever reason, you might be far away and you want to just get involved in something, do something in your community that makes you feel good. And I guarantee you, oh my God, the rewards are, wow. They're just, yeah, I don't even have words.
I can't think of a better way to wrap up this magical conversation. And I'm so grateful. Deborah, you do have the sauce. You do have the magic sauce. And you're such a bright light. And I'm so glad you listened to Stevie Wonder all those years ago and still do. And thank you for inspiring all of us today. What a gift you are. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the invitation. I'm so honored to have been asked. And and thanks for allowing me to share what we do at Hearts of Gold.
Thank you.
Everybody have an amazing year. Amazing year.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Charity Matters podcast. I really enjoyed talking to our guest, Deborah, about what it takes to start a business that truly changes people's lives. I think Deborah's comment about there are so many ways to love was beyond inspiring and true. To learn more about modern day heroes like Deborah, or if you'd like to reach out to us, visit us at charity-matters.com or connect with us on Instagram at Charity Matters. If you enjoyed our conversation, we would love this if you shared it with your family and friends. And please don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Thank you for caring, for believing in goodness, and for being a part of our movement. You are exactly what the world needs more of. And remember that together, we can make a difference, one small act of kindness at a time. Charity matters. See you next time.